Lots of fun to start the year, apparently.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, mate, how's it going? You okay?
Yeah, right.
Welcome to the Growth Show, guys. So for those of you that are joining, we can just see you coming in. A few gremlins got in the system. So clearly when I copied over the original from 2021, it didn't jump over correctly. So sorry about that, folks. And our camera just decided to give up the ghost on us as well. So yeah, thanks for that. But anyway, we're here. How are you doing? How's things, Amit?
Yeah, good. We'll give it a few minutes, I think, just to give everyone a chance.
Exactly.
Apologies, folks. So an email's just gone back out with the right link. So yeah, we'll have to follow up with Zoom and see what's happened there.
I think what's quite interesting is the way that we're quite lucky today. We actually have our guy in the office in the studio, Umesh, who heads up our video department. And what's interesting about that is that first of all, we've had all these gremlins. So luckily they was coming and sort this out. But what's I think more interesting is the fact that he's decided to put some very bright orange light next to me. So essentially I look like I'm on fire. Or I can see like I look like I'm on fire. I'm very red and very pink, and you look very casual over there. And because I'm sitting here with a hoodie, it looks like I'm boiling in a hoodie. But I'm not. I'm not. I'm actually pretty calm. So just for the guys that are dropping in now, we can see. Apologies, guys, the wrong link went out this morning. So we'll just see kind of as you flow through. I guess we can just ask. Let's ask. It's our first show of the new year, Amit.
Yep.
Obviously. There's reasons behind that, and I can probably explain when I talk about my couple of weeks. But how's your couple of weeks going?
It's first new year. I think we've had very similar a start to the year, but for different reasons, I guess. But yeah, very kind of COVID centric, I guess, for both of us. So yeah, my wife had COVID, so we isolated her and managed to kind of escape it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But I don't think you were so lucky, right?
No, we tried I'd managed to grab it from somewhere, and then in the end, the whole family got it. So yeah, I think at the moment we've started to see a bit of an impact, not just here, but kind of globally, right?
Yeah.
So kind of for clients that we've got in Europe, UK, and US. At one call I had last week in the US, 70% of the call had COVID on the call.
Really?
Yeah. So it's quite, I mean, thankfully everyone that we know is affected at the moment has kind of been mild. So we can kind of almost joke about it, but it was quite comical to be on a call. I mean, it was a good 10 people on the call, and 70% of us had COVID, which is weird. So
I think it's just how it is right now.
Yeah,
I was talking to someone in the UK yesterday and they were just saying, look, everyone seems to have it, but everyone's kind of just getting on with it. So
that's it. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what the kind of impact of that is from a kind of legal perspective, but I guess if everyone's isolating, I don't know. It's obviously
it does throw up actually an interesting point. Just while we do, guys, thanks for coming in. Sorry, the wrong link was shared this morning. Bit of a Zoom gremlin. So thank you for joining us. We're just kind of padding some time a bit while we wait for people to come in. But I guess it does open up a bit of wiggle room, because it was a bit of a standard joke that over the last couple of weeks, every call I've had, someone's had COVID, and ordinarily. I guess, I don't know, pre-COVID, if you had flu or you're feeling a bit under the weather, you wouldn't jump on a call. I guess with a cold and stuff, but if you had flu, you'd probably be out of office, right? But I guess a combination of working from home and the fact that everyone has got it is kind of said, no, look, let's just crack on, let's get on some work. No, please excuse my voice, all this kind of stuff, right?
It's been, I mean, more and more calls you go and you see people with it. So I feel as if people are kind of just, kind of just getting on with it now.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I think we've got enough of kind of a crowd forming now, mate. Yeah. So we may as well kind of kick on. We're already 15 minutes.
Shall we skip the news?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. So normally we kind of run through different bits of
interesting news in the market. Yeah, locally.
Yeah. So things like sort of technology-based stuff. That's sort of caught our eye. But I think we'll skip that this week and just head into the main topic, because it is a bit of a juicy one this week.
Yeah.
And it's one that I guess kind of the idea for the topic originated out of an article we read just at the back end of last year in the Harvard Business Review. And it was really interesting in the sense that, there's this age-old challenge, non-marketing people don't really get marketing, right?
Yep.
So, the second there's any kind of, I don't know, economic restrictions or financial restrictions within an organization, one of the first budgets to kind of almost
Yeah.
go is always marketing, right?
Yeah,
It always
definitely.
feels like that thing that we perhaps don't really need.
That's right. Yeah, it's not really helping us anyway. So
Yeah, and that's always a challenge. I guess it's a funny one. If we almost go back to sort of 08, 09,
yeah,
same sort of thing happened, right? It was very much a case of, okay, look, right, massive global recession.
yeah,
First thing to go was marketing budgets, and not completely go, but if someone had, I don't know, $1 million budget, suddenly it was like $200,000, right?
Yeah, slashed.
And what that kind of did in those days was force people to look away from newspapers and magazines and billboards and more digital. So it's kind of worked in our favor. But the challenge I think today is when every company really is kind of, marketing themselves using digital platforms, that kind of reduction in budget is now much more sort of impactful for businesses like ours, right? And so the whole topic and the kind of summary of the article really was that there's a real kind of shift that's going on again. And I think this is possibly kind of driven from the pandemic, but I've got some stats here.
Yeah.
But you've got 59% of marketing leaders are reporting increased pressure from CEOs, okay? And 45% of them are experiencing pressure, which they've never had before, from CFOs, okay?
Right. Yeah.
So from some company leaders through to the people that control the purse strings of an organization. These guys are saying to marketing, okay, cool, we're giving you this money. What's happening with it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can't justify that spend, then perhaps you don't need that spend.
Yeah.
And I thought why it was interesting is because we shouldn't really be there today. I think what it is, especially if we're talking about, larger organizations with, with experienced marketing teams, I think the only reason why they would be facing pressure from CEOs and CFOs potentially is that they just haven't adapted to digital, right? And not adapted. I think everyone knows that they can run social media campaigns and Google. I don't mean that, but actually, what's the impact of business, right? If they're not able to they're
going to draw a line.
Yeah, if they're not able to say, hey, look, this is the activity you're doing, this is the impact on the business. Well, that's why you're going to get those questions, right? But I thought it'd be interesting to kind of tackle this head on and say, okay, well, look, what is it that marketers really need to focus on, okay? Or people who are maybe looking after marketing budget. How can they kind of, really reduce this kind of additional pressure that they're getting? And I thought what we could do is kind of tackle that by, I don't know, I've got a list of about 10 that we can run through.
Perfect.
I'm not sure if we'll have enough time for all 10, but I think the main points will definitely be covered. So I don't know. What's your take on this, Andrew?
I think I've kind of witnessed it firsthand. We deal a lot, and I think where I've seen it, kind of a practical kind of visibility on it is through the IT industry. So, the IT industry, the way that they're usually structured is you obviously have a brand that sits on top. They rely on certain partners, distributors, resellers, etc., to market them. And there's a whole, team dedicated to working with those partners. And I think traditionally there was investment that was given, and the questions on how that investment was spent, let's say, or how that budget was spent was fairly open, let's say. And
we're talking about people like Microsoft and
So the big guys. So your Microsoft, your HPs, those of the world. Where they would obviously there'd be a direct kind of marketing effort and activity, and then obviously because they have certain partners for different products and services they provide, they would then contribute to their marketing. So that kind of joint partnership, and we see that across the board. So at any brand level that we deal with, there's a contribution from the brand and an expected contribution from the partner. And I think what we've witnessed firsthand is there's more questions asked about that investment. So okay, I'm happy to give you a brand, money towards promoting obviously our brand, to bringing on new business. This ultimately helps us, but we want to understand a bit more about where that's been spent. And to your point, not only that, but what's the impact, right? So if I've been giving you X amount of dollars for the last 5 years, that's not the expectation anymore, guys.
Okay.
So now you have to not only justify where that spend is going, but then you have to talk about the impact of that spend.
Okay.
So was there real impact?
All right. So the point is that we've seen this in other industries. We've
exactly.
Yeah, I think look, the point is if you're spending other people's money, then there's always a level of complacency. We've seen that from from that same industry.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the challenge is when you're spending your own money, right? And I think
Mm.
this is really where this topic kind of comes from is that pressure's now very much internal, right? These are the guys who are going to, ultimately keep you employed.
Yeah.
So okay, so I get it. So let's kind of look at maybe some of these points.
Yeah.
And we'll refer to that Harvard study, and we'll kind of put our own kind of slant on some of this because I think some things are kind of applicable and others aren't.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the things that they mentioned, which I felt was interesting, is about building a business case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we've experienced this. Like it was, with clients in the past where they want to run a marketing campaign, or they want to run, they want some advertising, right? They want to kind of get some brand awareness out, things like that.
Yeah.
But when we've asked the question, because we always ask the question, okay, cool, what are your objectives from this, right? What is it that you want to get out of this? Well, we are sometimes met with that silence, right?
Yeah.
Where
more often than not.
Yeah, because they've been either told that we need more people to know about this.
Yeah.
And so and therefore get it out there.
Yeah.
But really, they don't. When we're looking at what are the main objectives of the actual activity, that's the challenge, and that's where sometimes if that's not in place, then obviously it's going to be difficult to get buy-in from your CEOs and CFOs on potential spend, right? And we're not talking about things like, okay, we want 1 million new people to hear about our business.
Yeah.
But actually, what are the things that are going to make a difference to the business, right? So if you're a startup, is it that if you suddenly get 1,000 new customers, that's going to have a massive impact on valuation and things like that? Or is it that you're just looking to sell more products or sell more services, which has a direct impact on revenue, right?
Yeah.
But again, if the marketing team don't fully understand what the organizational goals are for this activity, then that's where there's always going to be an issue, right?
Yeah.
And it's very, it's common sense, but we've seen it in
definitely
in a very kind of practical sense, right?
Yeah. No, you get that a lot. You get a lot of, as you said, a lack of focus, let's say, on the reason behind a certain activity, right? It's often not known, why they just effectively been told they have to do something. And then also at that point, the challenge you face is you can be spinning plates at that point, right? Where if we're not quite sure what the goal or the focus or the outcome should be, it's very difficult to determine a proper strategy, right? Because then you can follow similar strategic paths that you may have taken in the past, but ultimately, it's not going to deliver the right results, right? If you don't know what the end goal is.
Yeah, I mean, look, starting backwards, I think is most important. I think when you kind of are tasked with something, what is it that you need to achieve? Okay, if I need to achieve this, what is it that I need to do, right? And I think we've, we do this when we'll talk about the funnel because I think that's important.
Yeah.
But, for example, starting at the bottom of the funnel when creating a strategy is always smart. So for example, as a new school we're speaking to at the moment, and the first question said is, how many students do you need by September?
Yeah.
Let's start from there.
Yeah.
Right. Let's not say I've got $100,000 to spend.
No.
And and I need this. No.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily equate to that.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Let's figure out how many students you need. Now let's figure out exactly what inputs you need, how many leads you need to generate in order to convert that many.
Yeah.
Because not every lead is going to convert.
Exactly.
You can start to kind of work backwards and go back and say, actually, accurately, I'm going to probably need this amount. Right. Now, if the organization then turns around and says, okay, well, we don't have that amount. Okay, well, perhaps we need to look at the end goal.
Yes.
Right? Because there needs to be kind of full alignment, right? I don't know if there's kind of brave enough conversations like that go on. Because again, I think a lot of our experiences in this part of the world, we've got clients elsewhere. There's a very marked difference.
Definitely.
When you're dealing with some of our US clients, example, compared to local clients. When you say to a US client, that's not possible. Say, okay, cool. what is possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, whereas,
I might be able to move some budget from here. I might be able to, or we can look at some different goals.
Yeah, whereas locally, I feel as if that doesn't happen so much.
No, and also I think what happens with that as well. The other thing is the other challenge we obviously face with that is around investment, right? So a lot of the time in perhaps some mature markets like US, like Europe, they do have a number, right? That they may have been given by CFO, by CEO, and that number is clear cut, right? So this is the number I can deal with. What can you do? And I think there's always a reluctance in this part of the world to share a number. Because for whatever reason, it's in that, potentially you're going to use all of that, or you're going to use half of that, or they're only going to, and that, kind of marries well with the fact that there's that kind of openness and honesty around the fact that, well, okay, you got 100K to spend. Actually, we don't need it. We need 50, right? But usually the conversation, you got 100K, great, I need 200. I don't know. There's a nervousness around that for sure.
I think that also leads to the next point actually, which is relationship with CFOs, right? And I think this is something. And again, I think if we kind of almost look at again the kind of DCC region.
Yeah.
We have very, very limited contact with CFOs. Just in advance of this session, spoke to a few kind of marketing clients,
right, and
said, look, what kind of involvement do you have with a CFO? Well, it's never two-way. It's normally like a week.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is that a lot of them said, look, actually, it's not so much for CFOs that are a challenge, but procurement departments.
Right. Okay.
And again, I don't know how different that is.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, right? I think it's definitely worth a closer examination. But what they have said is that actually, there's the relationship is still quite disjointed. Okay, so again, if they're organising a marketing campaign or a marketing strategy or some sort of activity, procurement is just like, you've got to go through them because they'll make sure that processes are complete, compliance is in place,
exactly,
all of these things. But actually, procurement aren't necessarily aligned to the organisational goals, other than what they do specifically within their remit, right?
Yeah.
So it's never a case of okay, look, or we've been told it's never a case where they say, look, I need 1,000 new customers.
Yeah.
And you're working with procurement. Procurement's job is still to make sure you get the best deal, the best level of service at the best price.
Yeah.
I think with CFOs, if we then take that kind of step back, I think you can overcome this, right? Because again, if you went to the top of that kind of financial tree internally in an organization, then you do have the opportunity to justify what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it's saying, look, that we need to do this, this, and this, because if we do that, the organizational goal that we have, going back to point one, there's a chance that we're going to be able to meet that and succeed and all of those things that go with it. But I think that was an interesting point, just in terms of just a communication standpoint. And I think when we kind of read further on this, it was like, well, why don't you why aren't companies creating almost like internal teams?
Yeah.
That you maybe do have CEO or representing the CEO, CFO or representing the CFO, and a marketing team.
Yeah.
So there's full alignment from day one in terms of what needs to be achieved and what it's going to potentially cost.
Yeah, I think also the challenge is that a lot of the time organizations are getting involved in things that they've never done before. So there is no benchmark. There's no kind of the old kind of, okay, X percentage of my overall investment is going to be based and put towards marketing, right? That's not really kind of played out, because there is a challenge. They're venturing into a space that perhaps they're unfamiliar with. And because it is quite vast, we've spoken about the different levels of investment, how that breaks out across companies and different individuals, different organizations, sectors, etc. And that also compounds the challenge, right? Because they're unable to, let's be honest, from a financial perspective, it's very black and white, right? You know, and it's sometimes difficult to attach a black and white environment to, you know, a dynamic space, right? So ultimately, you know, this is why it's so important, like you said there, to really understand and align your initial goals, because you can always lean back into that. That is black and white, right? I'm either going to get 50 new customers this year or I'm not, right? Simple as that. And okay, as you said, if it takes 100,000 or 1 million, you know, I need to know where that is, right? What else was some of the points that they brought up?
I think the next one was interesting as well, which was again, I think it was down to communication. So we don't need to go too deep in this, but it was really kind of, you know, experienced marketers have very clear logic behind why they're spending the money they are in certain places, right?
Yeah.
But again, the kind of report found that that's never been communicated to, again, CEOs and CFOs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It's like, we need this, and this is going to impact this. But that kind of communicating the logic and reasoning, you know, do you use that kind of experience factor behind that? I want to go back a point actually. The benchmarking piece. Actually, I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
Because I think that's an important piece, and I'll actually share some examples of conversations I've had in the last few weeks actually related to that.
Right.
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Another point was the you know, the lack of measurement on sort of brand and customer metrics. Okay, so. So again, I kind of almost, I don't know whether this is complacency.
Yeah, I don't know where that's come from. Yeah.
But basically, what these companies are saying is that 30% of marketers, less than 30% are the ones who are producing actual results that have been very clearly measured.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Whereas you're talking that over 70% of marketers are never reporting results. Yeah. And so, and I think it's just, you know, it's something that, look, we've had conversations with experienced marketers and like, okay, look, I get it in the old world, I just don't necessarily get it in the new world. So what kind of data, what kind of information, what is it that people want, right?
Just quickly, Amit, I think if you can just raise your voice a bit, apparently I'm coming through loud and clear, and you're kind of in and out a bit. So if you can, sorry, just didn't want to interrupt. Just had a couple of people jump in and say, Andrew's okay, Amit, I can't hear.
Okay, all right, I'll do my best. Yeah, so like I said, we've had clients of ours that have said we don't know what we should be looking out for, right?
No.
What is it that we should be measuring? How should we be kind of reporting that back? And things like that. And I guess when in the digital world we get that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you know, traditional media, it was much easier to maybe report back.
Yeah.
Although perhaps harder because you can never draw that straight line to.
No, but I think a lot of the time it was visible, right? So traditional media, at least the person that was signing a check was able to see an advert, as it were, right? Or they were able to drive and see something.
Yeah.
Some of the based again on your goals. I mean, you and I have been in a meeting where, you know, we had an individual that was talking about the fact that they couldn't see any of the advertising, even though we weren't targeting this country for a particular ad spend, right? But I can't see it. Well, you're not the audience, but why can't I see it, right? So I think there is some of that, right?
Yeah, true. But I think again, just to help markets out there, really, I mean, what people want to kind of understand more about is, or what, you know, decision makers in a company want to understand. They want to understand, you know, what the brand equity is running this, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, has there been an increase in that? Customer growth is an obvious one, right? Have we got more business out there? Have we retained more customers on the back of it? I think retention is a key part of this.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, you know, the kind of upsell values, right? So customer lifetime values, right?
Yeah.
So have we managed to convert an existing client into a customer of additional products? But again, you know, if you can start to kind of understand how the impact of marketing and digital marketing as such can really kind of impact all of those things, I mean, it starts to make a lot more sense, right? And I think if you do go back and start reporting on these metrics, you know, it's very difficult, I think, for a CEO or CFO to turn around and say it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that reporting metrics have to include that, you know, prospect journey or that customer journey, right? So we've got to kind of see where they initially kind of, what was that first touch conversation? What ad did they come in on? You know, how did they arrive in a conversation. And I think, you know, that's also important to kind of, if you can, you know, trace that entire customer flow, right? Because that customer journey, and we've spoken about it down that marketing and sales funnel, is crucial to understand, right? Because then again, if you can show I'm spending X amount on here. I mean, I had a great conversation with a regional player in the healthcare space, you know, and their marketing team, they're looking to, you know, tech, essentially kind of HubSpot, to help them understand their expenditure, because they're blind to, you know, actual kind of conversion. So they know that they're doing well because they're being given money, but they don't know how well, and they don't know where that money is going, which is delivering the right result. So now, you know, in this scenario, and I think a lot of scenarios, their hands are tied as far as not doing anything new, not trying anything new, not optimizing their current activity, because they don't have the power to analyze that conversion, right? So again, that's an, you know, this, if you've got a break anywhere in that reporting mechanism, that's going to harm you over time.
You mentioned a funnel there. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, because like any opportunity to talk about.
Totally.
But I mean, this is one that kind of makes sense, and it was interesting that there was a couple of comments in the article where they were like, you know, just because you understand the funnel as a marketer doesn't necessarily mean the CFO does, and in some cases maybe even the CEO.
Yeah.
Right? And I felt that was really interesting because it's something that we almost take for a given.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, like this is why we market. Right?
I say, you know,
yeah,
that's how I approach it.
But the challenge is that, you know, again, if that's not being communicated back, then how do you expect a CFO to sign off on a brand awareness top of funnel campaign, which, you know, may generate some leads, but ultimately it's laying the foundation for further lead generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, I mean, reality is if and again, this was in there, the CFO gives you $1 million to spend, he's going to knock on your door in about 3 or 4 months' time saying, what was the result?
Yeah.
How much did you generate for the business?
Yeah.
And again, if they don't understand the impact of, okay, well, actually, look,
that's not what this was about.
Yeah, I'll say, well, no, I think if you say that,
you're out the door.
You're out the door. But I think if before that money was given, look, this is how it works. Right?
Yeah.
So our sales cycle is 6 months, for example.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, 30% of $1 million budget is going to go into top of funnel lead generation. So we've now got prospects that may turn into business 6 months down the line. Okay. And then we're also going to be spending some of that money in that messy middle, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, you know, the middle of a funnel piece.
Yeah.
Where someone is interested but not quite ready to buy now.
No, that's right.
And most companies today, and I think when we spoke about this last, Google was an example.
That's right. Yeah, we use Google. They call it the messy middle.
Google, basically, we said, we don't understand the message, or we didn't understand.
Didn't understand it, yeah.
We kind of knew top of funnel and we knew bottom of funnel, but we didn't know what to do with the people in the middle.
That's right.
And I think they tweaked a few things. And
it was around e-commerce, and they got a higher conversion rate,
and suddenly they're generating, you know, like millions of dollars more.
Exactly.
But I think but again, how does the CFO understand that? So I think if you say, look, these are all the facts, so we know our sales cycle, we know this, we know that. If we now map this into the funnel, this is what it looks like. 30% of the revenue's there. So don't even ask me about that 300K.
Yeah.
For maybe another 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
The stuff that's in the middle, we're going to spend some money there, and actually we're going to focus on bottom of funnel because actually, we need to generate revenue.
We need to generate some business,
Right. So I think just communicating that makes a lot of sense. The funnel is just so ignored when we're having conversations, right? I think you know, again, if we go back to the you know, schools and stuff that we're speaking to right now, it's quite interesting because that whole middle piece is totally ignored. Yeah. You know, and a conversation I had with someone a few weeks back, and they were saying, well, no, we kind of, you know, we make sure that we get our leads, and I was like, on your website, like, the call to action for me as a prospective parent is line out. I was like, that's not lead generation. No. That's you telling me I need to make an application for my kid now.
Pay for my kid. Yeah.
it's the first time I'm on your website.
Yeah.
Am I ever going to do that, right? So you're not doing anything from a top of funnel perspective.
Yeah.
Your mindset is still very much bottom of funnel, where you want to speak to people who are ready to pay you tuition fees right now. Who does that, right? So you know, again, it's overlooked in any industry you look at. There's always prime examples of.
Look, the challenge is real, right? I think that there's. I was talking about it yesterday that there's really no wine and dine, right? You know, and the challenge in a lot of environments is that the pressure associated to a salesperson is, you know, weekly, monthly, daily targets, right? Quarterly targets, whatever they may be. So as much as there is a desire and an understanding of how marketing and sales work to generate business, there's still immediate and daily pressure on sales to convert. So, you know, the focus is, well, where can I get that conversion? Where can I get that conversion? You know, and it takes a lot for, you know, that business development team or the sales head or whatever to understand more of that long-term prospecting, right? As far as kind of nurturing individuals and kind of pulling that through, right? That's the real challenge.
Yeah. Do you know what? There's a really good case study that kind of, I think, company really kind of gets it right. And you're going to be well aware of them. Geico in the States. Okay. So I don't know if you guys have seen it, but basically they've got a little gecko.
Yeah, the lizard. Yeah.
He's basically
British guy.
Face of
That's
British
it.
gecko in
British gecko in America. Yeah.
What they do really well, and the case study that I read is they've actually said that they're actually very aligned to internally between the CFO and and marketing and all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And so their TV ads, a lot of them in the States, for example, are focused on the messaging of save 15% in 15 minutes off your insurance.
Yeah.
They're an insurance company, right? And they're like, that is nothing other than a kind of pre-funnel awareness piece.
Right.
Where all they're trying to do is plant a seed.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're literally just trying to get that little kind of message stuck
That's
in
it.
people's minds.
When somebody goes to renew their insurance.
So next time they've got a renewal coming up, they remember, I can say 15% in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And bang, right? They go on to that.
How do I do it?
They're like, sometimes that could be 11 months out, right?
Yeah.
Because I might just renewed
your insurance.
And, but, you know, so their whole objective is top of funnel, top of funnel.
Top of mind.
And just any time someone then has any kind of insurance requirement, they're hoping there's some level of brand recall.
Yeah.
But really smart in terms of how they do it.
Yeah.
They basically spend a lot of money to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
At that top of funnel stage.
Yeah.
In the hope of some of those being converted to the funnel.
Yeah.
But it works. It's super successful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, and they've got some really funny ads as well.
Which obviously helps.
Yeah. The creative piece on that is very engaging actually on those. Yeah, I mean, look, I think the thing is that the challenge as well from a financial perspective, as you mentioned, is if we're not explaining that 30%, you know, quite frankly, that is just awareness. You know, there's not, you know, I'm not going to get any business today or in the next 3 months. That's a pretty bold statement from a marketeer as well. And I think the challenge is that sometimes, you know, within an organization, that the marketeers are not empowered enough to be bold and brave enough to make that statement, right? There's too much pressure associated to, you know, winning business, closing business, getting the best, you know, bang for your buck, right? As it were.
Bravery, I think, is the key.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I think because we've seen it.
Yeah.
Seen this, and that's our experience.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to anything else.
Yeah.
A couple of other things. So apparently, and again, I think this is very kind of US focused, but it may apply here as well. So a Deloitte survey, basically, of C-suite execs, which didn't include CMOs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They asked the question of like, in the last 12 months, when was the last time you collaborated with CMOs, right? So
CFO to CMO.
Yes, we're talking CEOs,
Yeah.
COOs,
Yeah.
CFOs,
Mm-hmm.
anyone other than basically marketing.
Gotcha.
Okay. And what they found is that only 17% of C-suites. Amazing.
That's good, guys. So this is when you know the show is live, because we're on a bit of a fire alarm. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put us on mute. Hopefully it should pass. Give us 1 second, guys. So what we'll hear in about 2 minutes is it sounds like someone's in a cave, and they'll say Barcelona, and you'll hear that. So it's a regular occurrence in our office. So yeah, don't worry, the building's not on fire. Well, I hope not.
Apologies for that. So,
you can see that we're live. I mean, that's a good thing. And for those of people listening on a podcast, they know we're live. Yeah.
So look,
so no collaboration.
Yeah, 17%. Only 17% of them have collaborated with the CMO.
Gotcha.
What does that say about the role of the CMO and how that's deemed inside an organization? I think that's a real kind of question. I think that was probably the stat that kind of got me the most. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, I don't know. You know, is it again marketing not making themselves as important as what they need?
You spoke about it at the very top of the show. The fact that, you know, when there is any kind of financial pressure in an organization, immediately, you know, they look to a department that, you know, allegedly up to this point has had value, because why would they have a marketing department or a CMO or a marketing manager in the first place? But that's the first place they look to cut or cull. But I also think that may be, look, it may be a legacy possibly of, you know, wastage in the past, right? So, I mean, you and I, you know, we're not old, obviously, we're young men, but we do remember insane amounts of money being spent on kind of traditional advertising or stunts and marketing stunts, you know, and just no value attached to it. Really, it was just a very much, you know, a play of kind of see how big or great I can be. So there may be, you know, some of that legacy piece associated to just like a hangover, right? So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, no, you know, they just waste money, they do this. And I think what's interesting about this study is that there's still, because of that lack of collaboration, there must be something still there, right? And it's you know, they're obviously trying to, it's difficult for them to draw a line. And I think the thing is, you said, you know, people that sit in perhaps a marketing position, I think they're changing as well. So I'm meeting more senior marketeers that have more of a strategic background, or some have been involved in business development, some have been involved in other parts of a business and then kind of brought on board, because I think they are bringing, you know, additional value to that. It's difficult sometimes for a highly creative individual to perhaps sit down, you know, with a CFO and or a CEO and have a sensible numbers conversation, right? Because that's intrusive of my creativity or whatever, right? So and I think what I've seen in that is I've seen a bit of a change in, you know, kind of that marketeers, right? That's there. And also, look, I guess the challenge is that in the past, sometimes even from an educational perspective, you know, people have gone into that space and it's quite broad marketing, right? It's quite broad, isn't it? You know, and if you unless you start to focus or analyze on certain things, you know, I've had conversations this last week where people are like, oh, look, you know, I'm more of an old marketeer, and you know, what does that really mean? I mean, you know, it just means it's still the same strategy behind something. It's just applying new tools.
Yeah, no, true. I think all of that's valid. We've got 10 minutes. I think let's run through the last few minutes. But one of the things, Andrew, was we touched on it earlier, the benchmarking. Okay. And I want to come back to this because basically,
well remembered.
They touched on it in the study, and they were saying, look, there's not enough experiments being run.
Right.
So a lot of marketers are going very much kind of all or nothing.
Yeah.
They're not saying, okay, well, look, let's test things, let's run experiments.
Yes.
Kind of
Yeah.
Let's kind of understand what will happen potentially if we spend X, but instead of spending that much, let's spend maybe 10% of that.
Yeah.
And see if we can kind of, see if we're right.
Yes.
Let's test our hypothesis.
Yeah.
Let's kind of, make some predictions and forecasts, and let's see how close we get. And it's funny because for whatever reason, I've had a couple of conversations in the last month, I'd say.
Yep.
And there's companies who are not located. Say, for example, both of these, I think, were kind of companies that were. One was in Asia, one was in Europe. and they want to both open a business over here,
right,
in this region
yeah,
to cover the UAE and Saudi, and it was lead generation conversations, whatever like that. We want to kind of launch some campaigns here, want to generate some business and some awareness and all that kind of stuff. How many leads will I get? And I was like, okay, it's like, let's kind of have a look at this for a second. Have you run campaigns here locally before?
Yeah.
No. How much money have you got to spend? And both of them actually were said, here's our budgets.
Yeah.
So the budgets were quite nice. But they were like, so what's a minimum leads that you'll guarantee? And I was like, well, let's kind of go back a step. I was like, have you got any kind of
data,
historical data that we can use?
Yes, any competitive data.
Or benchmark against or anything like that for similar campaigns? No, but you guys should be able to produce that. Well, no, because our job, and actually it wasn't how many leads would you generate, it was like how many customers would we close.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And I was like, actually, I've got no visibility on your sales process.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're generating leads, I don't know how you kind of follow up. I don't know how you nurture.
That's
I don't
right.
know how you kind of convert and close these deals. So how can that be? How can that be the case?
A metric anyway. Yeah.
Both of their pushbacks was, well, other agencies are supplying. And I was like, well, they're guessing, and they've absolutely got no idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's impossible for us to make assumptions on stuff that we've got absolutely zero visibility.
Yeah.
You know, and even in terms of, okay, well, tell us how many leads. Well, again, I don't know how people are going to engage with your business.
Yeah.
How are they going to, adapt to your messaging? So we've got to work on those elements. And it was almost like, okay, all of the foundational bits were saying, if this isn't in place, you'll be going around in circles from at least 6 to 12 months.
Exactly.
To make something work or something work.
Yeah.
Why don't you spend a month to fix some stuff and
then
stuff? And literally my kind of response was, why don't we just spend $10,000?
Yeah.
Let's get some benchmark data.
Yeah.
Let's fix all the things that we know is a potential issue. With the Asian company, it was the language and the use of, say, English and
right. Yeah.
So let's fix all of those things so that it's market ready. Let's run a smaller campaign, and then from that, we kind of use that as a benchmark and we optimize.
Exactly. Yeah.
No. We just want to run campaigns, and this is like, but this is a challenge, right?
Yeah.
That same person, and it is a marketing director.
Yeah.
Who in both instances I was talking to.
Yeah.
Are going to go away and spend money. Probably generate little or no money on the back of it. And they're going to have a very difficult conversation with their CFO the next time they want to spend money. Right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's going to fail.
And also, I mean, they're looking to new markets. So potentially there's a lost opportunity with the market itself, right? Because it hasn't worked. Oh, it hasn't worked. Right? What everyone's saying about UAE, it's not true. We tried it. We tested it. You basically just set fire to cash. Yeah.
And I get it. Again, when people are trying to secure annual budgets.
Yeah.
It's difficult to maybe put some benchmarking budget. I don't know, but like there's definitely some sort of fundamental issues there.
Yeah, but I think that also in our industry specifically, there's a lot of yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. So it's a very aggressive, competitive environment, and people will just say yes, right? It always reminds me of a Marriott in Cairo, and everyone used to wear a badge which was. What is the question? The answer is yes, and it's kind of no matter what you ask them to do, they would say yes, right? From a hospitality perspective, but I think therein lies the challenge, right? Because when people are just saying, "Yep, no problem, I can do this, no problem," there's a big problem, and it's causing a bigger problem for ultimately the client, and then obviously the industry as a wider spot, right?
Last one, I think, and it's valid. I think it's a good one to end on as well.
Yeah.
But again, in a lot of organisations, marketing is still seen as a cost and not an investment.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think the way to really tackle this is just, again, if markets kind of are approaching market plans, strategies, budgets, and saying, look, if we do class this as an investment, then an investment by definition needs a return. Okay. So how do we kind of make sure that what we're doing generates a return? And it doesn't necessarily mean a return that has to be immediate. It could be a return over 12 months, right? Again, it's an investment. And so I think these are the things that, that again, it's just that mentality shift. But again, I think if it's marketers and CMOs and marketing directors, whoever they are, who are putting these plans together, I think they really need to tackle the ROI piece. head on and say, look, this is what we expect. It may take 18 months. It doesn't matter, right? It depends on sales cycles and all of those different things. But this is basically how we look at marketing now, not just as cost center.
I think just a simple shift to that funnel model for a lot of strategy is going to be helpful, because I think the thing is, conversations I've had over the last, kind of back end of last year and heading in last couple of weeks, marketeers that have built out a strategy actually, have effectively built a funnel strategy in some cases, but they haven't been able to, essentially visualize that, right? So it's kind of, oh, I've done, this analysis and this analysis, and we need to do this, and we need to spend here because our competitors are here. So it's fairly robust, but by way of an explanation, I think it sometimes gets lost in translation. So instead of the CFO or the CEO, investing, as you said, that time to understand where this sits, they just see a number at the bottom. And look, like with a lot of proposals, right? Everyone out there in business, you share a proposal, you could have a 60-page proposal, everyone's going to go to the last page and see the price. Yeah. So, some of those things are going to be a challenge. So, but I think that investment piece, as soon as you mentioned there at the top of the show, start to attach goals, start to attach KPIs, and realistic, like you said. So, the first 3 months we're going to do tests, we're then going to analyze the response and then make adjustments, during that time. I think that kind of plays out a hell of a lot better.
Okay, I think we're nearly there.
We are.
Time-wise. So,
yes.
Guys, apologies again. So, like I said, there was a bit of a Zoom issue first thing this morning where our webinar link had suddenly fired, but we'll get that sorted for next week.
Yeah, you'll be organised for next week. So, and we'll be back to normal next week, guys. So, for those of you that obviously first time listeners, thank you very much. For those of you or watchers, as it were, watchers, you can call them watchers, right? Viewers. Sorry, I should use the word viewers. We do this on a weekly basis, break down some news, and then take a bit of a deep dive into a topic. I think heading into 2022 here, we might be doing some kind of remote sessions. I think we spoke about doing some remote shows, and then also kind of looks confusion from Amit. I think I may have just thrown that to him now. But looking to do some remote shows, and then potentially kind of bringing some other people on the couch with us to bring some other conversations in as well. We spoke about that one, you remember? Yeah. Thank you guys as always for watching and listening. Really appreciate you being with us. We're heading into kind of 2 years. So it'd be crazy that when you and I first started this, didn't think it was going to be kind of running this long, but glad it is. So thank you guys. Thanks, Amit.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. See you next week, mate. Yeah. See you guys. Cheers. Bye.